Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Auction for the Soul. This week's Parashah is Parashat Chaye Sarah, and we're in the middle of this cliffhanger where Avraham was tasked with this most difficult of tasks of taking his son, his only son, and sacrificing him or offering up as an offering, as a sacrifice to God. God says, no, don't do this, stop. And Avraham is ready to come home only to discover that his wife, his best friend, the woman that he has loved for so many years, has passed away. Rashi points out in this week's parasha, it says, "V'yu Chaye Sarah mea shana ve'esrim shana v'sheva shanim shnei Chaye Sarah." Sarah's life was 127 years. It's interesting that the Hebrew breaks down the number 127 into 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years, and it's a very strange way of describing someone's age. Why does the Torah find it necessary to break down her age into smaller tranches of numbers, so hundreds and twenties and ones? Rashi says, Shnei Chayei Sarah. Why? Because Kulan Shavin Latova. That the repetition teaches us that all of her days were equal in being good. She was a remarkable human being. She had changed the world. And I suspect that so much of what we hear in Avraham is more of is not only his voice, but also a lot of Sarah's voice as well. And this is another idea that Rashi says. He says, right? That each tranche of numbers is there to be, expounded individually. When she was 100, she was like she was a woman of 20, regards to sin. And when she was 20 years old, she was considered, not having sinned. And, she was this beautiful woman, like a 7-year-old, as an inner childish beauty that she always possessed in her. Something profound and beautiful about Sarah Imenu. Now, Avraham, some people say this is part of his test. How is he going to react to the news of Sarah's death? But he is triumphant. Pasuk says that these were her days, like Rashi says. All her years were equally good, right? But the Orach Chaim says that her life was not measured by time, right? Like the years 1, 2, and 7, 127, but rather for the spiritual impact that she had. And she was a giant of spirituality. That Avraham was out there reaching out to the men, Sarah Imenu was reaching out to the women, and she changed people's lives forever. And she was a fiery personality. So can you imagine that if she was able to succeed in bringing over all these women with her? Yitzchak did not have the same success, and he was of a similar ilk to the mom, not like the father. He was not midat ha-chesed. He was more midat ha-din, like Sarai Menu. So the first lesson, I believe, in this week's parasha is that a righteous life is not judged by how long we live. And so many people today are trying to be like, they live very long lives, and they spend all this time in taking care of themselves, getting blood transfusions and vitamins and eating right and, proper, all the proper care. But who cares about how long you live? It's about, what one lives for. What are we living for? Are we living just to live, or are we living here to make the world a better place? And Sarah was dedicated to making the world a much better place. It's not on the external chitzoni things, but the panimi things that matter the most. So, Avraham goes ahead and he knows he needs to bury his wife. So imagine this for a moment. You have Avraham, he's promised everything, the stars, the heavens, and he's about to sacrifice his son. It's so painful. He doesn't go through it, thank God, but he finds out his wife dies. And God promised him that, your children will inherit the earth. He promised him that you'll get the land of Israel. So now he has a son who's over 37 years old, not married. He has a wife and he has no land to bury her in. How embarrassing, right? Abraham insists on buying the land, even though God had said it's yours. Why does he do that? He didn't want a gift from Ephron, the Hittite, right? Because he didn't want any strings attached. He understood this maxim of the Gemara that says, "Soneh matnot yichya," the one who hates and despises gifts, that person will live. Rav Hirsch says that Avraham wants to establish that the Jewish connection to the land of Israel is not something that we get as a handout, but rather it's something that is earned. It's not an inherited by chance or a gift. It's something that we need to fight for. And the irony is that we're still fighting for it today. So values, identity, and purpose are way more powerful when it is chosen and fought for. I spoke about this in my Rav Dessler class. If those of you are not listening to it, you'll find it somewhere on the YouTube. And Rav Dessler makes this fascinating point. He says that when you look at the machloket, the famous debate between the house and the schools of thought of Shammai and Hillel, we know that there's a famous debate where they were arguing for 2.5 years, and they were dealing with the following question: is it better for man to have been created, or better for man not to have been created? So they're going back and forth, what's better? And they finally concede. Hillel says better for man to have been created, and Shammai says better for man not to have been created. So now, after 2.5 years of going back and forth, Hillel agrees with Shammai, better for man not to have been created. But now that we're here, we have to make the best of the situation that we find ourselves in. So, this is how Rav Dessler explains it. He says, God creates man with, a special power, right? And that's divine assistance. So you have two opinions. Shammai says that yes, it's better for man to have been created because we can succeed with hard work plus God's kindness, right? And then you have Shammai, that's Mirat Chesed. That, by the way, is Avraham, right? His approach certainly. And Beit Shammai, this is Sara Menu. She says no. He says relying on God's kindness means that you failed. If you need God to help you with something, you're a failure because the goal was to succeed through your own earned efforts, your own earned merit. So at the end, they said, both of them agreed, better not to have been created from the strict justice perspective, from a place of Midat Hadin. But since we're created, we have to scrutinize every single action. And what does that mean? It means that the situation is unwindable. There's nothing we can do about it. We can't change our reality. We're here already. And therefore, since we're here, we have to throw everything we have into the fight, right? And so because something is impossible, you must do the impossible. That's it. We're here to do the impossible. And Avraham understood this. He's thrown into the Kivshan Ha'esh. He's thrown into the fiery furnace, right? What happens? He doesn't say, oh, I guess that's it. My ideas are going to be burnt away and everything I fought for is gone. No. When you push yourself to the limits, a miracle happens, right? You step into the fire and then you get access to the light at the end of the tunnel. That's what we want. Avraham is the burning example of this. How painful it is for him to lose his wife. I saw the Sfat Emet says that Magen Avraham, when we say in the Shemona Esrei, when we're really saying Magen Avraham, the Kavanah, I used to think it was like a sword and a shield, and that Magen Avraham means make my shield strong that you can protect me from all the evils of the world. And while there is some truth to that, but the Sfat Emet says something beautiful. He says, no, he says that each of us has an element of Avraham in ourselves. And that's the bold, inspiring, daring part of who we are. Interested in being great and fighting wars and looking for truth, being a lover of peace, fighting armies, debating, being philosophical, living a life of truth and honesty, of these great values of morality, bringing morality to the world. And when we say Magen Avraham, what we're really saying is, Hashem, protect that aspect of me. Don't allow that aspect of Avraham in me to be diminished. Always allow me to have that entrepreneurial spirit, a deep desire to do what is right, to do what is good, to be kind, to think, and to be a lover of humanity. That's what we're trying to protect. So Avraham is this superpower of a man who is, trying to do the good thing, and he's tested. He goes through these challenges, and Hashem says, don't worry about it. You can do this. You have the power of doing it, because there is no reality where you and I accomplish anything without God's help. So Avraham establishes this concept that Israel, we got to fight for. We're still fighting for it today. B'ezrat Hashem, we hope that all the wars come to an end and that everyone stops dying and we live in a life of peace. But we understand that we have to fight for what is true and for what is right. And then the parasha ends with the following. So Avraham realizes, he finally buries Sara, which is a longer, beautiful piece I don't want to get into. And then he's got to get a shidduch for Yitzchak. He ends up marrying Rivka. They have an amazing marriage. Eliezer has a mission. That's Abraham's trusted servant to go out and find an amazing girl for his master's son. Eliezer is looking for a girl who is going to provide water and drink for the camels. She has that midah chesed, which he knew that was part of Avraham. She was a tznuah, she had good character. She runs with energy and she's sensitive, right? And she does whatever she can. She passes all the tests. The Ramban says that Rivka's actions show that she was fit to continue the spiritual legacy and mission of Avraham and Sarah. And that's all she was looking for. And therefore, we talk about, the idea of choosing a soulmate, the idea of someone who is building a home, right? We're not building a home that is founded on wealth or status. Certainly, Rivka did not have status. But we're building a home that is based on shared spiritual values, a spiritual partnership. That's what we want. So you have this beautiful story of a man trying to do what is right. But at the end of the day, we're never perfect. We're not here to get it all right. Abraham's journey could have ended with him being thrown into the fire. But you and I are here for one thing and one thing alone, and that's to be the best of ourselves. The pressure, the stress is a necessary evil, because that squeeze is what allows us to become great, just like Avraham. Sarah Imenu, she had that squeeze. One last idea, it says that Sarah Imenu chose to die that day, because she says, you know what, I'm done. There's too much suffering, too much pain. We don't need any more suffering and pain for the Jewish people. We need people to do good, be great. And regardless of the challenge, you and I have that spirit of Avraham and Sarah buried, not so deep in us. You don't have to scratch too far to get to it. It's very close to the surface. All you have to do is want. You want, and Hashem will give. Wishing you an amazing Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom Avarach. Thanks for listening.